Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
Minutes before 9 o'clock. Beautiful Thursday morning. Hope you're doing well. Robin McLean in New York. Dan Martone sitting in for Robin. Thank you for doing that, Dan. And we are ready to read the news. We have taken the news from around the world, around the nation, and around the state, and we have shortened it so that we can squeeze it in this segment. Every weekday morning we do this from about this time until the top of the hour. It's the best opportunity you'll have of just sitting back, listening, and catching up on all the news stories that are making this world spin each day. And remember, if you'd like to sponsor this or any segment on WOCA, come by the beautiful studios here in the Paddock Mall. Sit across the desk from Dan Martone, sitting in here right now, or Joe Martone, or Tish Moeller. They will take you by the hand and show you how easy it is to advertise on WOCA. And let's see if I have this first story ready. By the way, one of the stories this morning that is, of course, unfolding is the government closing story.
What?
And so
the government closed?
I will try to give you the latest one I have. Right now I have this one. I think I kind of like this one a lot. When a Massachusetts man's beloved boat was riddled with bullets after he found the Boston bombing suspect hiding in it, the public wanted to reward him. People also opened their hearts and wallets for a homeless man who returned a backpack with $40,000 in it, and for a bus monitor who was videotaped enduring vicious taunts from students. It's kind of an all-encompassing story. Remember these?
Yeah, I remember those. Yeah.
Fundraising websites like GoFundMe and CrowdTilt have created an outlet for people moved, outraged, saddened, and inspired by stories in the news to make a difference financially. And so the newest one is the Boston Marathon bomber finder, the man who found the Boston Marathon bomber in his boat, is getting a new boat.
So they riddled his boat with bullets?
Well, yeah, they were shooting in there.
Yeah, that's bad.
You remember? Yeah.
Well, I didn't know. Did it sink? Wait, where was the boat?
Oh, it was in his backyard. You didn't know that?
No, I didn't know it was in the backyard. No.
It was in his backyard. That's where the bomber was hiding.
Oh, okay. All right. It would have sank otherwise.
Next story is yours.
Oh, next story is mine. Okay. Fracking wastewater contaminated and likely radioactive. Oh, that's a positive spin. This water was contaminated by fracking operations in Pennsylvania. Hydraulic fracturing, or fracking, it extracts oil and gas from deep underground. It injects water into the ground, basically, and breaks up the rocks in which valuable hydrocarbons are trapped. But it also produces wastewater, high in certain contaminants, and which may be radioactive. That's just bad. In a study published Wednesday in the journal Environmental Science and Technology, researchers found high levels of radioactivity, salts, and metals in the water and sediments downstream from a fracking wastewater plant on Black Lick Creek in western Pennsylvania. Story comes to us from MSNBC.
Yeah, and that's a good point. We do bring we do mention the news agencies that we get these stories from when we have that information, and it gives you, as a listener, a way to look into these stories further. The next story is more technologically spinned, or centered. More bad news for BlackBerry, Dan. The smartphone company said yesterday that its business is in even worse shape than what it reported just a few weeks ago.
Oh my.
BlackBerry, which is BBRY on the stock exchange, said the 4,500 employees it is laying off by the end of the year will cost $400 million, 4 times as much as the company had previously expected. That's particularly bad news since BlackBerry is racking up giant quarterly losses and rapidly burning through its cash. The company is also quickly losing its appeal in key markets. BlackBerry said yesterday that customers in typically loyal international markets are switching allegiances to Google Android devices. BlackBerry also said consumers are looking for devices with the largest number of apps, and that's definitely not BlackBerry's forte. You know more about this than me. I think.
Well, let's do a vote here. How many in this room have a BlackBerry?
I don't have one.
Nobody raised their hands. There's 3 of us, so that's 0 out of 3.
But have you heard that it was the lack of apps that was causing the big problem for them?
Yeah, so they really need to step up their game on the app front. I would just put
I think they're done.
That.
I don't think. Well, you never know. They could have a comeback. It just looks like they're done.
All right. NSA chief admits figures on terror plots foiled by snoops are misleading. The Obama administration issued misleading figures about terrorist plots foiled by the National Security Agency's warrantless mass collection of records of Americans' cell phone everyday use. NSA Chief General Keith Alexander admitted to lawmakers Wednesday there's no evidence that bulk phone records collections helped to thwart dozens or even several terrorist plots. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Patrick Leahy told General Alexander of the 54 cases that the administrative officers have cited as the fruit of the NSA's controversial domestic snooping. These weren't all plots, and they weren't all foiled, he said. And that comes to us from the Washington Times. So a little misleading there, huh?
If you know anybody who is on a vacation, as Robin is right now, you might be getting reports from them that some of the things that are run by the government are not open. You heard the story about the World War II memorial.
Of course.
That our vets, thank goodness, they didn't let that bother them. They went through the barricades. But it's all over the nation. We have a pen pal over in Germany whose son came to America for the first time to see some of these national treasures and cannot get into any of them. It's a common story you're hearing, and here's one out of Yosemite National Park. There is a guy over there named Joe, and he's been there for 30 years. He's trying to advise anxious guests about what's open, what's closed, as the government shutdown enters its third day. If they want to see the valley floor, he said, they've better get into their cars and drive now before more of the roads are closed. They probably won't find any open restrooms along the way, but the food court in Yosemite Village might be open for now. And you might have heard this morning the news that the commissary at, was it Patrick's Air Force Base?
Yeah.
The commissary was closed.
Well, there's some things open at Yosemite at all?
Apparently so.
So that's pretty good. I figured the whole thing would be closed down. I guess they can't shut the roads down, though, altogether.
I don't know.
You got to drive through. Okay. Next story. Exercise might be just as good as pills at stopping heart disease. Is this really a story? I don't think so. Everybody kind of knew that. I'm skipping that one. Seriously? It's exercise. Of course it's good for you. Better than pills. My goodness. All right.
Tossed a whole page.
Feds employers can't force payroll debit cards on workers. Paychecks are so yesterday. Many employers prefer to use a prepaid debit card, what's commonly called a payroll card, to pay their employees. This may be convenient for them, but they cannot force you to receive your wages this way. Oh, so if you're getting your wages this way, you can stand up and fight for something else. Do you really care? Does anybody care?
I don't care.
I know. I get my pay. Anyway, I get paid. I'm getting paid. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau recently issued a letter to employers reminding them of the law and warning them that the Bureau intends to use its enforcement power to stop violations. How are they going to? Okay. Employees have a choice, said Marla Blow, an assistant director at the CFPB. It's the law. The CFPB has received complaints from employees that some companies, especially fast food restaurants and retail stores, pay all of their employees with payroll cards. Workers said they were upset about the high and unexpected fees for routine transactions, such as checking the card for... Oh, now that's terrible. Okay, so this is from MSNBC, and they are saying that you get paid with this debit card, and we're going to charge you fees just to do that.
Right.
That's a crock.
That's it.
I'm going to be mad. Yeah, okay, I can't blame them.
We promised to bring you news that is very, very new. This one is only 10 minutes old. At least that's how long ago the New York Times posted it on their website. And here it is. In one of the deadliest shipwrecks in recent memory, 94 migrants died this morning just off the coast of the island of Lampedusa, south of Sicily, when their boat sank after a fire on board. More than 200 people are still missing. That doesn't sound good. The victims whose bodies have been retrieved so far were mostly from Eritrea and Somalia. According to Italian authorities, at least 4 children are reported dead. Italian TV footage showed the bodies lined up on the harbor in dark green and black body bags. About 170 people have actually been rescued so far.
Oh, how big was this boat?
It must have been huge. The old wooden boat sailed from Misurata, Libya, and was carrying about 500 immigrants when it sank just a half a mile off of one of Sicily's most famous beaches.
Oh, you're kidding.
Wow.
Half a mile, and they all still died.
Wow.
That's terrible. All right. IRS is collecting money, but not sending refunds during the shutdown. Man, is that really a surprise? The IRS is still collecting taxes during the government shutdown, but it isn't sending out refunds. And it has also stopped complying with the subpoena. Oh, okay. To turn over documents to members of Congress who are investigating the agency's targeting of Tea Party groups. Both the House Oversight and the Government Reform Committee and the Ways and Means Committee have stopped getting documents from the IRS. The IRS has indicated to the committee that their furlough decisions will affect the agency's representation and committee requests, including the outstanding subpoena, said Ali Ahmed, spokesman for the Oversight Committee. That comes from the Washington Times, and really not a surprise.
And this one would be a good companion piece for that one. This is from CNN. In an extended shutdown, most of the federal workforce would go without pay, but the checks will keep coming to the 533 current members of Congress. That is disgraceful, in my view, according to a quote from Representative Tulsi Gabbard, a Democrat from the state of Hawaii. Basically, the only people who get paid in the shutdown are members of Congress, and that is irresponsible. Gabbard plans to send any pay she receives during the shutdown back to the Treasury. The combat veteran said she was shocked to find out recently that members' pay is protected because it is protected by the Constitution.
Yeah, I think they took a few liberties on that one. But anyway, good for her, though. Good deal. All right. Thanks to a this is a local story. Thanks to a reduction in what's known as the Advanced Nuclear Cost Recovery, customers of Florida Power and Light will save $1 a month and change on their utility bills next year. So apparently $1.20. Florida's largest public utility got the go-ahead this week for a cost adjustment. The Public Service Commission in Tallahassee says Florida Power and Light can charge its customers more than $43 million next year to help pay for the new nuclear reactors in Miami-Dade. Commissioner Eduardo Balbas asked the PCS staff to break that down. The response it came down to about 46 cents for every 1,000 kilowatt hours. FPL customers are already paying $1.65 a month for the licensing and permitting of the kilowatt hour and the Turkey Point nuclear plant. So that's 46 cents that you're actually going to have a money saver. When it's all said and done, it boils down to a savings of about $1 a month for residential customers, according to the filings.
This one from Fox News. A provision in Obamacare requiring medical providers to switch from paper patients' charts to electronic records is intended to reduce costs and improve care. But privacy advocates fear the transition is too fast for security measures to keep pace. The thing that is worried about is not that we are doing it, but that we're doing it without the right safeguards. That's a quote from Lee Tien, a senior staff attorney with the Electronic Frontier Foundation, going on to say, we have been giving medical providers incentives to move into the electronic health records era, but we haven't been giving them enough guidance on how they're supposed to do it. Tien is concerned more specifically with the timeline outpacing privacy laws that keep pharmaceutical companies and other entities outside hospitals and doctors' offices from exploiting the information for commercial use.
What? Somebody exploiting something for commercial use? What are the odds? Okay. Disturbed weather could become the next storm. Disturbing weather in northwest Caribbean is headed to the Gulf of Mexico and could eventually impact the U.S.'s Gulf Coast. It's projected to become the next tropical storm named Karen. As the system moves towards the Gulf of Mexico, it's expected to bring thunderstorms to the Cayman Islands, western Cuba, and the Yucatan Peninsula today and tomorrow. The disturbance is projected to eventually move into the Gulf and head towards the U.S. Gulf Coast from Texas across to Florida. Models show possible landfall between Texas and Florida Panhandle over the weekend. The National Hurricane Center in Miami is giving the disturbance a 40% chance of developing into a tropical depression or a storm over the next 2 days, and a 50% chance over the next 5 days. Meanwhile, Tropical Storm Jerry is weakened to a depression as it drifts westward in the Atlantic. It's not expected to threaten land before dissipating. Jerry is the 10th tropical storm in the Atlantic season.
And the next story is from the Associated Press. Major Microsoft shareholders are calling for founder Bill Gates to step down as the company's chairman. 3 investors who own about 5% of the company are worried that the founder's prominent presence as chairman of the board is preventing change and that he may play too large a role in choosing the next CEO. The sources are unnamed. Names of the 3 investors, though, were also not disclosed. Steve Ballmer, CEO of Microsoft, announced in August that he will retire within the next several months when a successor is found.
Now, I read details on that story, and this is not going to happen. There's 3 out of 20 whatever, and nobody, the blogs, the reports, nobody wants Bill Gates out of there. It's just these 3 loony guys. He's staying. He's the one that created it. He knows ins and outs. I mean, he's not going anywhere. It's Bill Gates.
There you go.
You know, man's horrific infection sparks seawater warning. Wow, another water story. Vibrio vulnificus can cause vomiting, diarrhea, and abdominal pain if ingested through contaminated seafood, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Wait, aren't they closed? Government shutdown. But the bacterium can also invade open wounds and infect the blood in people with compromised immune systems. So if you're sick, don't go there, causing fever and chills, septic shock, and blistering skin lesions. Blood infections caused by the it's fatal. 50% of the time. That's terrible. According to the CDC, it's extremely rare that someone without any medical problems, the picture of health, to get this infection and die, though. ABC News Chief Health and Medical Editor, Dr. Richard Bayer of ABC.
Happened right here in Florida. Guy who got the lesions like a few hours after being in the water and died. His kidney shut down.
Oh.
Unbelievable. Let's see. The next story is from the Associated Press. Governor Jerry Brown is expected, California governor, I should say, Jerry Brown is expected to sign a bill today, adding California to the growing list of states allowing immigrants in the country illegally to obtain legal driver's licenses. Immigrant advocates have long lobbied for the change in the nation's most populous state so immigrants can drive without fearing being pulled over for a ticket, which would wind up getting them deported. This is really a historic day for California, said Marileana Hincapel, executive director of the National Immigration Law Center. This is really simply about driving and ultimately about being able to engage in everyday activities that every American does. And if we were debating this, we would say, well, they're not in America.
They're not. Yeah, I know. That's a tough story there because you just, okay. All right. U.S. stocks fell after S&P's 500 index rose and to almost 2 weeks high as investors watched for progress in an effort to end the impasse over federal spending as the shutdown entered a second day. Monsanto... It dropped 1.6% as the world's largest seed company gave a full year's earnings and forecast that trailed the analyst estimates. Aloha Incorporated, AA, slumped 2.3% after the Deutsche Bank A&G lowered its ratings to the aluminum producer. Global Payments, GPN, rallied 11% after boosting its earnings forecast. The S&P 500 lost 0.3% to 1,689.68 at 3 p.m., blah, blah, blah. So, they fell a little bit. That was kind of to be expected, though. U.S. stocks are going to fall.
This is NewsBItes. You're listening to the segment we created each weekday morning so that you as the listener can catch up on all the big stories. We, of course, don't get all of them, so many of the big stories. We try to give them to you as soon as we get them. The next one just came, actually, this is from yesterday evening. This is not that new, but you may not have heard it. 8 people were killed on a Tennessee highway when a passenger bus carrying senior citizens from a church group crossed the highway median and struck a tractor trailer and an SUV.
Oh, that'll do it.
The chartered bus from North Carolina was traveling eastbound on I-40 when the left front tire blew out and the bus then traveled across the median into the westbound traffic, according to the Tennessee Department of Safety.
So they were on their way home then if they were traveling eastbound on 40.
The bus clipped a Chevrolet Tahoe and continued traveling until it struck a tractor trailer.
Ugh.
You know, the tractor trailer accident that we had in Ocala yesterday,
that turned over?
No, that slammed into it. There was a tractor trailer slammed into another tractor trailer yesterday.
Oh, okay.
The tractor trailer in the back, the one that hit the other one, the driver of that one died.
Oh.
Yesterday.
Where was this? On the highway?
Yeah, right here, like just north of the Ocala area.
Oh.
Between here and Gainesville. But what I thought about, because the driver and the passenger from the semi that was hit, which I think was a dollar store truck, they're okay.
They probably barely felt it.
And this is my point. Had that not been, because whatever was happening with the guy who died, who knows? Maybe he fell asleep. Who knows?
Might have had a heart attack.
But he just crashed right into them.
Yeah.
Had it not been a semi in front of him,
it would have crushed whoever was in front.
Because all these people were stopped because there was another accident a few miles up ahead.
Oh, jeez.
So the traffic was stopped because of an accident. This semi crashes into another semi, and that's my whole point. If the vehicle he hit was not another semi, our news this morning would be horrible.
Yeah. That'd have been 50, 60 deaths.
Yeah, it would be a lot. I don't know if it'd be that many, but it'd be a lot.
Well, you take a semi going full speed. If it
Could
crushes...
be. Especially, yes, you're right. If it was a bus.
Yeah.
If there was a bus in front of them, no question about it.
Well, those roads up there are a little shaky in North Carolina and Tennessee. I don't know if you've been up there on 40. But
the interstate, really?
Yeah, the interstate can be a little hectic.
Really?
Okay. George Clooney hopes government shutdown ends soon. Yeah, good for you, George. He knows the country's going through a tough time with the partial government shutdown, but the actor is optimistic that cooler heads will prevail and things will get back to normal. He applauded Congressman Peter King, a New York City Republican, as one of the guys on the right, saying he's trying to get the government back up and running. Clooney says, I know for a fact there's a lot of guys on the right. Peter King, for instance, and some people like that, who are just doing the best they can to stop this from happening, or in this case, put an end to it. He adds, you just hope it happens soon. Well, good for George.
The next story is from the Telegraph, which is a UK newspaper. 14 people in every 1,000 with depression were diagnosed with Parkinson's disease during a 10-year period, compared with just 5 in every 1,000 of those who did not have depression. The results could suggest that depression independently increases the risk of Parkinson's, or that it is a symptom which affects patients very early in the course of the disease, according to researchers. I'm only laughing because you threw away that other story about the medical stuff. You just didn't want a medical story.
No, it was just a ridiculous medical story. It's exercise helps. Well, no, duh.
Yeah, but there was a new study.
Oh, new study.
Anyway, it is also possible that using antidepressant drugs could raise the likelihood of a patient developing Parkinson's as well. So it's one of those, what causes it? Is it the medicine or is it the disease?
Well, that
itself?
was a little more informative, yeah. With chicken or the egg, who came first, right? All right, in Tallahassee, Florida lawmakers are looking to improve the state's reputation in voting booth by pulling the reins at the polls. A growing number of Republican-led states, including Florida, are moving aggressively to tighten voting rules. After the Supreme Court decision that struck down the heart of the Voting Rights Act, lawsuits by the Obama administration and voting rights activists say those efforts disproportionately affect minorities. Say that 5 times fast. At least 5 southern states no longer required to ask Washington's permission before changing election procedures are adopting strict voter identification laws or toughening existing requirements. Florida election officials are set to resume an effort to remove non-citizens from states' voting rolls. A purge last year ended in embarrassment after hundreds of American citizens, most of whom were black or Hispanic, were asked to prove their citizenship or risk losing their right to vote. Well, that's just, you've got the right to vote as an American, nothing else.
I'll end with this story. I'm kind of a geek when it comes to science stories, so I'll use this as my last story.
Right.
What scientists used to think was an impact crater on the surface of Mars now appears to be the site of an ancient supervolcano.
Ooh.
The volcano could have been so violently explosive that it spewed enough ash and other materials into the Martian atmosphere to change the red planet's temperature for years, according to a report by Joseph R. Mikulski, a senior scientist at the Planetary Science Institute in Tucson, Arizona. Wow.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what made are they saying that's what extinct the planet?
That could.
Made it dark?
We could have been living there. Had to move here.
Yeah, it's possible. Got to move.
You never know. All right, we do have to move. We have to move forward. It's time for Veterans News coming up right now. Dan Martone, thank you for sitting in for Robin.
Thank you, Larry, for having me.
You going to do it again tomorrow?
Yeah, we'll do it again tomorrow.
Good. We'll take a little break and be right back with Veterans News.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
ABC News Now. I'm Karen Chase. Late-night White House arm twisting failed to break the stalemate with Congress, plunging the nation into a third day of a government shutdown. The holiday shopping season may be a jolly one. The National Retail Federation predicts more confident consumers will spend nearly 4% more than last year. Police in San Francisco believe they've toppled a major drug kingpin with the arrest of a man accused of running an anonymous online billion-dollar black market for illegal drugs and services called the Silk Road. The suspect called himself the dreaded Pirate Roberts. New York police have found and are now questioning the man who videotaped the road rage rumble involving a bike gang and an SUV, and are searching for the biker seen smashing the vehicle's window with his helmet. Another motorcyclist has been arraigned for allegedly starting it all by slowing his bike in front of the SUV. Miley Cyrus says her VMA performance was no accident. It was a strategic hot mess. In an MTV documentary called Miley the Movement, she says if you're going to make people talk,